talking about teens, we're talking about how to laugh with them, but the big picture of all of this is how to deal with emotions so that you can come from a more healthier and helpful place when you try to make decisions or when you try to go through situations. Her story, if you're just catching us right now, is a story of raising kids, being married, divorce, being in a job, losing her job. She's gone through a lot of transitions. And what she has found helpful is her ability to be able to find peace in every situation. Her ability to find peace in whatever was going on and coming from that place and now making a different choice. Karen is very keen on motherhood and how to like enjoy yourself, but also like how to like just roll with your teens, how to laugh with your teens, how to change that relationship from a very awkward, straining, or whatever the relationship is to something more fun and flowy and something you possibly look forward to. That's what we're going to be talking about, how she does that, her process of helping others through that, and everything in between. If you know a mother that is having teens and looking forward to enjoying their life alongside that, not just waking up every day, putting out fires, now is the time to place a share, invite them to this conversation, and let's have some fun. Karen, it's such an honor to have you on the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
I have so many questions, but first of all, what is it that you do? I said so many things. Some of them may be true, some of them not. What is it that I missed out as I was introducing you that you feel is so key before we even get started with this topic?
So I think what happens is mothers are going through menopause, teens are going through puberty. So you've got this absolute perfect storm of emotions on both sides. And what happens is that there's a wall in the middle where the mother can't get through the wall because all her anger is contained in the wall and all her stress and worry. And the teen can't break through the wall to connect and communicate with the mother because of their stress and anxiety and worry. And so they end up on either side of the wall, just butting heads and not getting on. And as a mother, it's really stressful. You're in your home, which is supposed to be your sanctuary, and your child, who used to be this sweet little person who, wanted to have fun with you and, you could enjoy life with and relax with, has turned into this beast. And you as well actually feel like you're quite a beast. So, because menopause it throws up all this stuff. So what's most important is the communication between mothers and teens, teens and mothers, fathers as well, but I focus on mothers because I think that relationship is still like the prime relationship in the majority of families. And as a menopausal mother going through the teenage thing, you're often looking at the problems that your teenager is coming up with. So women come to me and they say, oh, they're vaping, or they've brought weed home, or they're really angry, they're shouting at me, they're not doing anything I've asked them, their bedrooms are an absolute tip. So they're looking at the external stuff and going, like, this kid's driving me mad. And the work that I do looks at the first stage is to look at the emotions of the mother, because in menopause is often seen as a phase of medical symptoms. And yes, there are symptoms, hot flushes, anxiety can be a symptom, aches and pains, sleepless nights. And I don't, in any sense of the word, diminish those symptoms. They're very real. But I think what people are not talking about is that this is like a rite of passage. It's a transition for personal growth. And that's exactly what your teenager is going through as they go through puberty. So you're actually both going through a phase of intense growth and evolution and actually becoming a new version of yourself. And the hormones are making it all very emotional, and the changes are making it very emotional. So, my first step is to bring mothers to this sense of peace. And I have a signature process. I call it the deep peace method. It's way simpler and more straightforward than therapy and much quicker. You don't have to go over all your old stuff. You just deal with what's present at the moment. And it resolves everything very quickly, allowing you to feel a real sense of peace. And then once you're in that state of peace and calm, you're able to relate to your teen in a very different way. And you can start to communicate with them about all the things that you feel concerned about. So rather than that, say they're vaping and you're getting angry, you can just have because you're feeling calm and you're feeling at ease and you're feeling, you've dealt with whatever your issues are with them. You can just say, hey, I saw you came home with a vape the other day, and you can open up the conversation. And teenagers just want to be heard and they want to have sovereignty. So you might find that by just having the conversation, they start to think about vaping and why they're vaping. And actually, maybe they don't want to vape once they've really thought about it. So it's kind of a magical process, really.
It's interesting that you say they're going through menopause and they're going through puberty, because I've never thought about things like that. I've never thought about an adolescence this side and the menopausal. Like, I've never thought about those two situations, because all I'm thinking is about, okay, there's menopause happening here. There's a lot of things happening and the teens are just getting on our nerves. But then now that you talk about, yeah, but they're also going through adolescence and they have no idea what's happening. And maybe they feel the same or worse than you are. And until we all see what's happening and see the intersection, it's like you're building this tall wall here of saying, hey, you have to do it my way. And she's like, no, you have to understand what I'm going through. It's like this entire work. I've never looked at it like that. Now it's really interesting. But before we get into all the goodness, how did you get into all of this? Like, what's your story? How did you get all this stuff together, start building the puzzles and kind of putting it in the lens in which you put it? Because now I'm like, oh my God, this makes sense. Like, how did Carol get all this stuff together? How did you start bundling all these things and getting to kind of see what is happening there?
Well, recently you have helped me an awful lot. I'm gonna go back to my story because this is really a life's work. So I started professionally as a social worker, and I work with children and families. And nobody liked working with the teenagers. And I was actually quite, they always used to say, oh, we'll give Caroline all the naughty teenagers, because nobody could really handle it. And I always got on really well with them and managed to develop a relationship with them, maybe because I was a really wild teenager myself. So, I mean, I did it all. I smoked weed, I did alcohol, I got thrown out of school, So I think I went through that myself, and I know that I've come out actually as quite a sane person. And So yeah, most of the time. So I think I've always had that understanding of teenagers because I went through quite a tough bit myself. Then I did social work,
Mm.
and then I had my own children quite late, and it was a really conscious choice to go into motherhood. Like I really wanted to be a mother, and then I had 4 children, and I birthed them all at home. So I just kind of was really always really conscious about how I was being a mother, like so right from the beginning, like how I wanted to birth them. And I wrote a book about that experience and to try and help other mums. So really that's, and now like here I am again. I I had some amazing birth experiences and I wanted to share that part of motherhood. And now I'm in the teen phase and um I really want to share, I've been through some stuff with my teens, we've been through divorce, the court system, I've been estranged from one of my daughters. Um, they've, been through like wild parties, neurodiversity, um, and just, yeah, it's 4 children, so there's going to be a lot of different stuff. And um, I mean, how I put it together,
Mm.
to be honest, I'd completely forgotten that motherhood was my thing, because I think this is what happens. Like, there's a lot of literature around for being a mother of younger children, and then you get to the teen phase, and it's almost like you're forgotten about. So I kind of even forgot that I was a mother. So when I came to you for help, I was actually doing something quite different,
Mm.
but you you saw it, that this is who I am. And I think I love the work that I do, and I know I'm good at the work. And um I think that can be one of the difficult things when you have a skill or a passion or expertise, is like, how do I convey that? How do I communicate that? Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I'm talking about communicating with teens. This is, how do I communicate with the mums so that they understand how I can help them? Um,
Mm.
and that's as important part of what I do as the work itself.
From your story, which I know before this moment,
Mm.
from being a mother to being married to being unmarried to going through all the settlements with kids and all of those things,
Yeah.
to everything else, to all the transitions you've gone through, to not being employed, to being employed.
Yeah.
You've gone through a lot of transitions, a lot
I-
of transitions. And I am just wondering, like, is there a common theme between raising teens, being divorced, losing your job? Is there like a common theme, or are those phases all special and you need special skills for them? Because all the time I look at you, I feel like you're a one-stop shop for like
Mm.
all of these things that you've gone through, even
Yeah.
though we're focusing on teens and how to, enjoy our
Mm.
times with your teens. But do you find that there's like an intersection between all the phases, or is it like every phase is unique and special and you kind of have need special skills for that?
Mm. I think it's a bit of both.
Mm.
Like, I think it's sort of on 2 levels. So you've got your inner experience, the inner journey, and that's going to be whatever change you go through, that's going to be the same, is like using those inner resources of like the deep peace, communication, and using each change as a transition, as an opportunity for transformation and growth, and kind of not taking it all too personally, which that is a journey in itself. You don't just land yourself in court through a divorce and go, oh well, I'm not taking it personally. It was a journey to and once I was not taking it personally, everything
Mm.
was great. And always coming back, like, peace is my top value, is my number one value. And it's the reason why I left my marriage, because it was not peaceful and my husband did not value peace. He loved an argument, and I just don't. It's not how I operate. And so I think that's the element of peace. Like, every transition I've been through, I have seen as an opportunity to find a deeper sense of peace in myself. And
Mm.
yeah, I found something just written on a scrap of paper that said, I do not accept anything that challenges my sense of peace.
Wow.
And I don't actually remember writing it, but I did. I found it in my handwriting, and I thought, yes, that is it. So anything, and that is how what I do in my work. Like, your teenagers are
Mm.
challenging a sense of peace. That's what's
Mm.
so uncomfortable about teenagers. That's why people struggle so much. And we
Mm.
deserve peace. Like, from
Mm.
peace, and you can create community, or, so much, like, better relationships. Everything comes, I believe, from this inner sense of peace. So I think that's one part of going through transitions that is the same for every transition. But then each transition has, like, the external stuff that you deal with.
Mm.
So with teenagers, yeah, you come to your space of peace, and that is, right, really fundamental.
Mm.
But you also might need techniques for communication, or some tips, or this is what I see as, like, the external stuff of the actual stuff you're going through. So, like, say, when I was going through the court system, to support someone else going through that might be helpful to have already gone through it. So yeah, it's both aspects, I think, are helpful.
I love what you're saying there. There's an external process and there's an internal process. And I'm
Yeah.
living testimony of that. My mom, I think, is going through the time when the kids live. Our last born is
Mm,
25 and my dad is gone. And I
mm,
think she wasn't looking at the repercussion until my dad was no more. Now she's by herself. Last born is 25, 27. Everyone has really moved on. So she's like an emptiness now. But I do think that a big part of her struggle is not getting closure with that. It's not getting to a place of peace with
mm,
that. So when you talk about peace, I'm thinking about my mom. And I'm thinking, yes, like, if she could get to a very peaceful place with that, everything else might look different. Because of the fact that she's not getting to peace with that, then her health is going really down. So before
yeah,
we get the
totally.
external, I'd love to kind of sit on the internal peace. And I want you to tell me how I find peace when my daughter is coming home with vap, or sleeping in random boys' homes, or
Mm,
smoking, or getting
mm,
pregnant, or doing all the things that don't serve
mm.
peace. How do you get
Yeah,
to a place of peace when you see
yeah.
your children falling apart? Like, when you really see things
Mm,
going. Yesterday, my friend was here, and literally, this is how she parents. Every day, I'm just glad to be alive. Every day,
yeah,
I'm glad no one is dead. Every
yeah,
day, I just put out fires and hope this phase will end. And I'm like, really? Like, does it have to be like that? And she was like, when you have a child, we'll talk. For now, no. But
mm,
I struggle to really understand, like, does it have to be that way? So to talk about external and internal
mm,
tools, I'm very keen to start with the internal piece, and then
mm,
also very keen to go to the external pieces, because I don't see a lot of people talking about the internal piece. So can you help me
mm,
understand how a mother can find peace
mm,
in chaos? Like, if things are just falling apart. How do you
Yeah,
get
totally.
yourself to a place of peace?
Yeah, because so there's only one thing that you have control over, and
Mm,
that is how you feel inside. Except most people don't realize that we have control over it because we're not taught that in schools, or it's just not generally like in any like global culture, no culture that I'm aware of. Maybe, I don't know, I just haven't found one yet, but we're starting to learn about the inner experience and that we
mm,
do have this control. So, but you don't really have control over your team. You've probably already given them, you will have raised them and given them what you can.
mm,
And that's often what's really difficult. So the first step is to get you in a better place and to get you feeling peace. So what I would ask you to do is we would be sitting together.
mm,
Either it works virtually and it works in person.
mhm,
Um, and we would talk about your situation.
mm,
And then you're going to have some feelings about that situation. So you might start off, let's say you've got a pregnant teenager.
mm,
And so you start off and somebody might say, my daughter's, she's pregnant and she's gone off, and, the external stuff would be the thing on their mind. And then what I would do is bring them to a place of being deeply present.
mm. So I want to kind of ask,
Yeah.
whoever is listening maybe has a thing. We all have things. Maybe your daughter is
Yeah.
doing stuff. Maybe your husband is doing stuff. Maybe your job is going astray. My mother is, I don't know, taking away some of that for me. I wonder, can you help us go through the experience no matter what we have going on that is taking our pace? Like, is it something
Okay.
you can demonstrate to us who are
Okay.
listening and kind of say, feel into your thing
Oh,
and let's
sure.
do it? Yeah, because I
Yeah.
would love to personally go through the
Okay.
experience.
So, what have you got that is there anything you've got that you have angst over that you'd be prepared to share?
I don't know, menopause. I probably fear menopause. I don't know what will happen when I get into menopause. I'm probably scared of menopause. That would be a good
Okay.
place to start.
Okay, so you have a fear of menopause.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want you to do
Mm,
is you've got that fear, you're thinking about the fear, and it's in your head. And I want you to now just come into your body.
mm,
So if you can close your eyes and really bring your awareness into your body, bring your focus down. And you might want to just touch your body, pat your thighs, just to really bring yourself into your body. And take a deep breath. Breathe in through your nose and breathe out. And going inside, I want you to see if you can find that feeling of fear of the menopause.
yeah, in the heart.
Yeah. Can you tell me where it is?
Yeah, in the chest.
Okay, so it's in your
Yeah.
chest.
Mm.
And if you can just put your hand there and just feel that area and just notice. So go right into that feeling.
How do I do that?
So you keep your eyes closed.
Mhm.
And you said the feelings in your chest.
Yes.
So can you get a sense of that feeling, of what shape it is? Or a texture? Or a color?
It's just an external, it's like an external obstacle. I don't see the colors or shapes of that.
Okay.
But I can feel there's an external angst around that.
So it's in your head.
No, it's in my chest.
Okay. So you're feeling it as an external angst.
It's,
When
yeah.
yeah, so when you say an external angst, how does that feel to you?
It wasn't there before. I paid attention to it. Now it's there.
Okay.
It's the same feeling I get when I'm stepping on a stage of like more people than I've ever spoken, and I feel it.
Okay. So just stay with the feeling
Okay.
of a fear of menopause, fear of being on the stage. And notice where it is. Just let it be. Be what it is. We're just going to spend some time with this feeling and allow it to have its day. Because feelings like to cycle. They just want to be seen and expressed. And on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say that feeling is?
It was 10, but now seems like a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it still in your heart?
Yep.
Okay. So just keep breathing through it. Take a deep breath into that space. And just staying there with it. It's actually very grateful to you that you're giving it some attention and allowing it to just be present, be here. And sometimes the feeling might change or evolve into something else. So just notice and don't judge it or try and change it or fix it. Stay with the feeling. You're doing great. It's really good. Allowing it to cycle. Just being very, very present with what's there and what comes up.
Seems to disappear.
Okay, tell me where it is on a scale of 1 to 10.
I think it's gone.
Wow. Amazing.
Can you
Amazing.
explain that process to someone who has no idea what's
Yeah.
happening? I've done this process before, so I am probably more
Yes.
open to it. But can you
Mhm.
explain to someone what we just did there if they've never done it?
Yeah. So I think it's helpful to understand why we're doing it, because I think people
Mm,
generally they understand therapy, and that if you talk about things through, then that resolves things. The difference with this is that as I said earlier, like emotions want to cycle.
mm,
They want to be acknowledged, observed, held, and
mm,
experienced.
mm,
And when we're not doing that, they get caught in our system. They just continue to spin,
mm,
and they spin and spin and spin until you give them the opportunity to resolve and complete the cycle. So that's what we're doing. The
mm,
method to do it is it's so simple. I mean, everyone's seen how really simple it is, and you can do it yourself.
mm,
Um, so the first step is you have to get yourself into a space where you're not going to be interrupted.
mm,
Have 5 minutes to spare. You can do it in 5 minutes.
mm,
Then the main thing is we're all taught to be in our heads. So getting into your body is going to be like the most difficult thing about it, I think, is
mm,
a lot of people don't understand what it is to get into your body. But you get into your body, you can touch your body, you can take breaths, and just keep pushing your consciousness down, pushing your awareness down, so that you're like thinking into your belly, thinking down into your body. And then once you're there, rather than connecting with the story of what's happening, my daughter is I've got a teen pregnancy, um, going to like, how does that make you feel? How do I
mm,
feel? What's that feeling in my body? Because the teen pregnancy has happened, the vaping has happened. You don't really have a lot of control over teenagers.
mm,
Your mom certainly doesn't have any control over her last child leaving. Um, you won't have any control over the menopause when you get there.
mm,
So you just go deep into that feeling. That's where your control is, by owning the feeling, being very present with it, and going deep into it. So you notice the original feeling. So your feeling was fear.
mm,
And sometimes some people do see a texture or a shape or some kind of sense of what it is, or they might have a word of what it is. Not
mm,
always. It's not always
mm,
that easy to label. And then the next step is, I call it layering, because sometimes that emotion will actually have something else underneath it. And after the
mm,
first level of peace, you have another layer. So it's again about becoming deeply present with that layer, and knowing, connecting with it, understanding it, being present with it, and just continuing that cycle until in the final step, like you said, oh, it's gone. You get that release, and with something big that is very distressing and stressful to you, that
mm.
release can be massive.
So the fact that the angst is gone, what does that allow me to do? Because I don't even know what to expect in menopause. I'm not even there. I'm like, oh
Mm.
my God, this menopause thing
Mm.
that people talk about, I have no idea and I'm just scared of it. But then
Yeah.
what does this allow me to do having no angst around it? Like what does that enable me to do differently that I couldn't have done if I still had the angst around menopause and everything it means and what's gonna happen and I don't know, my hair is gonna fall off and who knows what.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that might happen. But it allows you to have a different approach. And
Mm,
really, you can't necessarily change whether your hair's going to fall out, but you
mm,
can change your approach to that. And if you're in a space where you're ready to approach it, not with stress, but
mm,
with from a space of peace, and it opens up possibility.
mm,
So if your fear is about, if you have, I'm trying to think of an actual situation. Well, I have got a situation, so with when I was in the court system, and I
mm,
used the deep process, but it took me quite a while to find the method. But once I
mm,
did, the final session I went into court,
mm,
I was so present and I had processed absolutely everything. And
mm,
I was representing myself, which I never would have done had I not been able to do this process, because understandably, it is a terrifying thing to be in the
mm,
court system for your children, really representing my children and their best interests. And when I was going in there agitated, it was just like a horrible experience. And I just never felt like I came out winning.
mm,
And by the final session, I was so present and still. I barely said a word because I just sat there in my peace and I said the handful of words that were necessary and had power, and the whole situation shifted. And that was the last time we were in court. And we now, I can talk to my ex. We even had a bit of a laugh. And yeah, so I suppose that's the thing. It allows you to laugh. That is the
mm,
the whole point of this process, is that you get to a place of peace and you can laugh about things that seemed so stressful and agonizing 5 minutes
mm.
ago.
Wow. I'm thinking about a teenager, let's say a teen pregnancy. News hit you, your teen is pregnant, and you're like angry, frustrated, and
Mm,
you pull them up and you lecture them. Versus, you feel those things, you lock your room and you process it,
mm,
and you go, I really can't take back the pregnancy, and I can't take back the fact that she's my daughter. So I'm going to first of all find peace with this situation before I talk to her.
yeah.
You get to a place of peace. And now when you talk to her, that conversation can go a totally different route. Is that kind of what you're explaining, or am I
Exactly.
getting it wrong?
Yeah, completely. Because if you shout at her, and, I mean, it's old school parenting. It's not
Mm,
unusual. I don't judge anyone who's found themselves in that situation, because it's
mm,
probably how we were all parented. And it's, it's understandable that there are a lot of situations that teenagers get themselves in that you would be angry with, but that anger is not helping.
Now I've found peace around whatever the thing is. And
Yeah.
now I want to actually understand how to enjoy my teams. So, what is the actual full process when you combine the internal and external? What does it look like for me to move from putting out fires to actually enjoying time with my teenagers?
Mm.
Mm,
Um, Yeah, I mean, so obviously the first step is peace. We've already talked about that,
mm,
and a big part of that is putting the focus back onto you as the mother, and
mm,
that's the thing during menopause. That's what menopause is asking you to do, is to bring this focus back into yourself. And it might sound like counterintuitive, like how can I focus on myself and get on better with my teens? But it does actually work. Like you can't nurture others from a empty well. You have to have your own needs taken care of. And in menopause, those needs are just they're they're different. You have different needs. You don't have, your estrogen has dropped, and estrogen is a caring hormone. So you don't have that ability to be as caring as you were before. And that's, again, it sounds like it's the opposite to what you need to get on with your teens. But they need to be let go of as well. They need more space. So actually, if you can come to a place of peace with it, where you're not feeling guilty or you're not feeling angry with them, it can actually rub along quite nicely, because they become, they fill in the spaces. Like you can literally say, I'm not doing anything today because I'm tired and I'm going to just spend the day on the sofa. And someone else decides to cook for you, or maybe they don't. You can't have any expectations. Everything just becomes a lot easier. And a lot of what teens are trying to do with their behavior is detach from you anyway. So in a way, like the coming back into yourself, the letting go of them, it gives you all a bit of space to sort of be who you want to be and start evolving into who you want to be and evolving into this new version of yourself. And then you catch the moments of fun with them. It's not about, like when they were small, spending hours with them. It's about being in a space so that when you are with them, you're open to having a bit of fun. Like when you're in the kitchen, having a kitchen disco, or I mean, I can't really say the specifics because I know what my family likes and your family's probably completely different. But it's about being in that space so that you're receptive to having a bit of a laugh with them.
So what exactly are we missing here? Like, what is it that the mother who is struggling so much with their teens and having a lot of friction and having a lot of rolling eyes and tantrums, like, what exactly are they not getting? And how is it that you would want them to start thinking about this? Because I feel like a lot of mothers, especially my friends, they don't get it. People I have seen parent, they don't get it. It's like turmoil, it's slamming doors, it's rolling eyes, it's you have to do it my way, it is leave me alone, it is give me my peace, it is why can't you clean your room, and why are you entering my room, and all of those things. Like, what is it that the mother that is generally struggling with this piece is missing?
I think she's missing her own part in the journey. I think it's easy to sort of blame your teens for everything. Not that their behavior isn't infuriating, but you're both going through something. And so I think what she's missing is communication, because you might communicate with your teen, say with a messy bedroom, which is so normal. I don't know any parent that has come to me and said, "Oh, my teenager tidies her bedroom every day." It's just not a thing. So if you're communicating rather than tidy your room, you still haven't tidied your room. The more you're doing that, the more you're alienating your child. Whereas if you just step back and you own how you feel in that, look, it drives me mad to have your bedroom in a mess because it's my house and I feel like you're disrespecting my space. And then you say that, you can say it without any expectation. And then the child goes, oh, right, okay, well, I think of this as my bedroom and this is my space. So you're opening up, but then look what they've done. They have just owned that it's their space.
Hmm.
They
But
just say to me, so
what part of
yeah,
you like there's also a part of you which you gave them a room and now again you want to be in that room. Like there's also a part of you maybe which can kind of step back and say, all right, that's her space or whatever.
yeah, exactly. So, like with my daughter, I never mention her room, and sometimes it gets disgusting. And then I'll get up one morning and she said, "Oh, I couldn't sleep last night, so I cleaned out my bedroom."
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, it is kind of magic. It's kind of magic. It's quite hard to really put like a structure on it.
Mhm.
But the structure is understand your own feelings, take care of yourself,
Mhm.
and communicate. Those are really the first, most important things that you have to do. And trust. I think that's also a massive thing. Is like people don't trust their teenagers to make sensible decisions and sensible choices. So they
So
don't make sensible choices.
so if I was taking notes and I'm like, okay, my mother, I want to get this right. I want to really enjoy my teens and I know I want to do the work. If I was taking notes, the first place is own my parts of the whole thing. Own the parts of me that is bringing the chaos. And then number two was that like find peace. Which part is peace and which part is trust and which part, what is step one to step five? Or is there anything like that? Or should I just go in any random order?
Um, so step one is peace.
Mm.
And then as you begin to trust yourself more, you naturally trust your teens. So that's all
Okay.
part of you coming to a place of peace.
So peace, find peace, come from a place of peace. Whatever you do, just come from a place of peace.
Yeah.
Learn to trust yourself and trust your teen.
Yeah. The second thing, it's about taking care of yourself in a
Mm.
and one of the most important part of that is freeing up your time, because I think what causes a lot of stress is that mums are just so pressed for time. So
Mm.
you have to get some kind of grip on your time,
Mm.
where you're spending your time, how you're spending your time, and how much time you want to spend with your team. If you're too stretched, your piece will not be lasting. It will last within the session, and then you'll go back into your really stressed, overburdened life and fit and overwhelmed life. So if you can carve out a bit of space for yourself, then that is going to make all the difference. So I have a system called time sorcery,
Mm.
and that shows mothers how to have a different relationship with time, because it's not just about time management. There is time management in the process, but it's also your relationship with time. You know, there's a real drive to be busy. We feel validated when we're busy.
Mm.
And so coming to stillness, doing nothing, being quiet it's quite challenging. So that's part of my time sorcery system, is to reset your relationship with time. So that's step two.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you're in that space, you can start to make time for yourself, because this is really the important thing in my work. It's not just about parenting, it's about mothers. And I think we need to recognize what mothers are going through, and also who they're becoming and who they are. Menopausal mothers are women in their third act of life, or approaching their third act of life, who have an amazing amount of skills and wisdom and experience and expertise. And they can get very swamped in the whole motherhood and teenage thing. So, phase three in my process is to start getting to understand who you are and what you want for your life. Because your teenagers are not going to last, they're only teenagers for a few short years. And even if you have a few of them, it does come to an end. And who are you going to be at the end of that? Who are you going to be when they've left? Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to spend your time? So that's the third part in my system. And I call that the passionate mother. It's the mother who's, because once you're in a peaceful, like relaxing space with your teens, because you don't have all that angst going on in your background, in the background of your life, you've actually got headspace and time to start thinking about your purpose and what you're here for and what you want to do next. Or, I'm not talking about, it doesn't have to be any, great big mission. Maybe your purpose is to sit on the sofa and knit or read books or whatever. But it's that coming back to you in the third phase. And then the next 2 stages of my process. So the next stage is about actually getting to the nitty-gritty of that and like planning who you want to be and getting the inner resources together to move forward, because it's all going to be a journey of evolution. So you've done this bit of evolution with your teens, you've found who you are, you found what you want to do next. Then you get this opportunity to put something into place and actually craft your life really in a way that you may not have thought about before, in a very like conscious way, and a way that isn't just doing what everyone else is doing. It's making something good for you, something that works for you. Like for me, being single, having my own business so I can work in my own time, talking about motherhood, those are the things that work for me. And I'm lucky enough to be able to do those, and I've made the time to do those. So, and then in the final phase, you become like this Renaissance mother, because Renaissance in the sense of like you're reborn. You've literally come through. It is almost like the menopause and the teen years of like taking you through this, like squeezed you through this like birth canal of stuff, and you've evolved and learned all this new stuff about yourself, how to relate to your teen, how to come to a space of peace. And then you can rebirth yourself and be a completely, different version of yourself, a peaceful version, someone who can find joy and meaning every day. And it's a beautiful way to live.
Let me see if I understand what you just went through. So based on the process I've just had you explain, what I picked is this. The enjoying motherhood or enjoying teens, enjoying the menopause, whatever the phase you are in is a choice. And it all begins with finding peace. Finding peace in the moment and not trying to change things you actually can't control. But finding peace in the pieces that you may not be able to control. In my case, finding peace in the fact that menopause is coming, whether I freak about it or not. So that's I understood as step 1. If I can find peace around menopause, then maybe I can sign up for some of Carol's resources and get to prepared before the actual thing hits, so that when it hits, that I am not putting out fires. So finding peace with the things that you cannot change. That's what I understood. What I want you to do is listen and kind of tell me where I go off when I go off. The second thing I understood you saying, you have to free your time, because a lot of this is stress built up from being a mother and being everything to everyone, and everyone wanting a piece of you, and everyone expecting you to do this, do that, do that, do that, and having no time for yourself. So there is need to free up your time so that you can actually do things for you.
Yep.
Things that start to think about the things that you want, not what everyone expects you to do, not what your teens expect you to do, not what your husband, like time for you and what for once
Yep.
you actually need. Making
Exactly.
appointments with yourself and actually showing up, even if that looks like sitting in a bathtub and just enjoying that. Even if
Mm-hmm.
that's going and reading a book, even if that is going to church every day for an hour. Carving out the time to kind of not just be in the doing, but also being. And maybe some
Yeah.
of that is just being by yourself. The third
Yeah.
thing I understood is really understanding yourself. What does that mean? What do you mean understanding you? What does it mean?
In your younger years, you were a version of yourself.
Okay.
So in my younger years, I was a social work professional.
Okay.
Then I went through a transformation and I became a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through menopause. And menopause had me asking a lot of questions about myself.
Mm.
And the thing about menopause is that it's an opportunity to resolve like anything that comes up from your past. Like things come up for you and you think, but surely I've already dealt with this, like your relationship with your mother or trauma that you had years ago. And you think, but I've dealt with this. I've had therapy. I've done it.
Mm.
But these things come up again during menopause for like one final showing, and then you can go, right, gone. So then that gives you this opportunity to say, right, well, I'm definitely not this traumatized child. I'm not this mother. Like, who am I now? Um, so it's kind of reconnecting. I've heard a lot of women say that it's actually a bit like being a teenager again, because you can sort of reconnect with things that you loved when you were young, or you might find new things. Maybe you'll find new hobbies, or you want to be in business or travel, or there's so many different things depending on who you are. But it's just spending that time with yourself, like having dates with yourself so that you get to know yourself again. Like
I like it.
developing a relationship with yourself. But with this, you're kind of a new person. So it's developing a relationship with who you're becoming and who you're going to be for your third act.
I like it. So find a place of peace. Let go of the things you can't control. Create time for yourself. Carve time out to actually do things for you, not for everybody else. And then I
Yeah.
think the third one is what I'm picking is as you grow through the phases, through the labels, through the titles, you keep losing a bit of who you are. You keep disconnecting from the version of you that you knew before you became this thing and this thing and this thing.
Yeah.
And the part of what you have right now is versions of other people. What your father told you to be, and what your husband wanted you to be, and what your kids want you to be. So, what I'm picking up in the third stage is sitting down and reconnecting back with you and shedding off parts of you that don't serve you and deciding that this is who I want to be in this moment, and maybe reconnecting with parts of yourself that used to light you up, and deciding that you're probably going to give up with identities that don't serve you, that you've taken up along the journey of all the labels and all the hearts, and saying, but who do I want to be in this moment? Because a lot of people never decide what kind of mother do I want to be. They don't decide what kind of wife do I want to be. They don't decide what kind of job do I want. Like a lot of people just take up things because by default things fall on your plate. So this is a time to spend with yourself and decide that for once I deserve to design my life. I deserve to want what I want. I deserve a walk in the forest. Sometimes I deserve to cry, and that's fine. Sometimes I deserve not to cook, and that's fine. Sometimes I can be a good mother who also didn't make lunch, and that's fine. I think I get that point. And then finally, you now start to design the pieces and put them together and start to do the things you've always wanted, like that project, launch it, that business started, that job, maybe you plan to leave it. So what I'm getting is I finally become the mother who's living a life by design and not in reaction. Is that like what you've explained, or what did I miss there as I was going through?
That's no, I think that was absolutely brilliant. I really, very concisely put. And what you've made me recognize as well is that a massive part of it is the shedding. It's what you're saying no to as much as you're saying yes to. It's like honing it down into this point of who you really are and getting rid of loads of stuff.
I like it, because the thing that is in my head is you can't do new things unless we drop the old things. So to create space for the new person, I think there's identities of us that have to die, and maybe we have to mourn them and bury them and whatever, but deciding consciously who we want to be in this moment and going forward. Because when I look at it, the women that need this work have lived half of their life living another person's life, living life by the book. I can look at my sisters and look at everyone in my vicinity, and literally people are doing things that somehow are supposed to happen. And I'm like, whose life are you living? And a lot of people don't think about it until one day they lose a partner, or something happens with their teen, or menopause just gets tight, and they're like, what for? What have I done all this for? And they're like, I don't care anymore. This second half, this is me. This is me time. This is me half. This is me showing up as the person I was supposed to show up 40 years ago. And now I am deciding to do it unapologetically. I kind of see the Renaissance mother in that lens of, this is the time when you just become you and do your stuff, and no care what else. I loved two things you talked about. I loved the time resource that you talked about, because we may have 20 hours in a day where we are doing things, and we may not even have a moment to sit down in a bathtub and enjoy a bath. And so I love that resource. Like, if you can show me how to free time or something like that. But I also do love the peace process. And for the person that was listening in that would love to try the peace process, can you go over those two pieces? Because and is it possible to get them?
Yes, so there is a guide called LOL with your teens, and that takes you through the 5 steps of the peace process, so that you can actually do it yourself. The deep peace method, I called it. But so you can get that. Are we going to put a link here, or how's that going to work? If not,
below we're Facebook Live, just so you know. So we're going to put a link below that. We're going to put the link in the show notes. So if you're watching on the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, just check the show notes or check the comments. All the resources she's talking about will be right there for you if you need them, if they can help you. But tell me more about the role with your teen. But I'm interested in the time, and I'm interested in the piece. How do I get those two pieces?
Oh, so the LOL with your teen guide, which you can get on my Facebook profile, and we'll drop a link under here. That is that is available. And there's also a short course which takes you through 5 other steps of the LOL with your teen process, which is quite exciting as well, because then you get to peace, and then there are 4 other steps in that system that will get you through the next bit. So through the communication bit, and boundaries, and how you're actually going to develop that relationship with your team. And then inside my community, there is also a time sorcery course that you can buy. So it's all available for people to buy.
Also, the time sorcery is a paid resource, not a free resource.
Yeah, no, the Time Sorcery is a paid course within my community. It's I've made it very cheap because I just want people to start, and I think it's really important. It's a really important piece of the puzzle is to get your Time Sorcery, get your relationship with time in the right place. Yeah.
So if I was wanting the next step, maybe if it's a free resource, is the peace process free? Can I get the peace process for free?
Yeah, the peace process is free. Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
cool.
a free resource, and that's where you can start. And that free resource is called LOL with your teens, because the first step in having a laugh with your teens, in laughing out loud, is to get to a place of peace for yourself.
Okay, so there is a resource here that we're going to be putting in the show notes that is free for you, and it's called Roll with Your Teens, LOL with Your Teens. What Carol has put in there is the processes, the steps to help you have fun with your teens, to help you laugh with your teens. That is a free resource. Inside of that resource, she demonstrates the deep pith method. So if you find yourself angst, if you find yourself angry, if you find yourself having emotions that are any other emotions other than peace and joy, if you find yourself with feelings of contraction, anger, sadness, you find yourself reacting, you find yourself like, if you find yourself out of a place of peace, this is the step-by-step of how you can get yourself to a place of peace. Now, once you can get yourself to a place of peace, everything else can start from there. I'll be putting that resource in the show notes or in the comments, depending on where you are. Grab that. That gets you into Carol's world, opens up to everything she has going. She shares a lot of free stuff. She also shares a lot of paid things. She has a lot of courses for like $10 to $50 to $100. So wherever you are, just start there. She has free things, and she has paid from anything, like 10, 20, 100. So wherever you are is where you start. Carol, is there anything that we've missed out that if we didn't address in this interview, that your work would be incomplete? Is there anything else that we need to talk about that would bring full closure to the person who is listening about the pieces they need to pick up?
I think I just want to close the circle really and come back to the most important thing that we said at the beginning, which is about just have compassion for yourself and have compassion for your teen about this stage of life that you're both in, where you're in this hormonal stage of hormonal and phase of life shift, and your teen is in a hormonal and stage of life shift, and just have some compassion for both sides, because be kind to yourself, because it's not easy, but there is a way through.
Okay, so if I can wrap up what I had or understood from this Carol's work, is what makes parenting teens difficult is not that teens are special, or it's not that something is wrong with you. It is that we need to understand what's happening. We need to understand the intersection. We need to understand that we're going through a process. They're going through a process. And there's need for empathy to break through the walls so we can understand each other. It's like you've started speaking Chinese and your daughter has started speaking French. And if you scream in Chinese and they scream in French, English is not going to come through. So if you both spoke English before, she was your baby, and she would never be without you, and you were this mother that was just growing and being a mother, and now she's here where she's like, okay, I'm being an adolescent, actually I don't need this kind of motherhood. She now sees it as creepy, and you now actually don't care as much. Your language has changed to Chinese, her language has changed to French. So what can happen is you can scream at each other until nothing happens, or you can understand what's happening and kind of maybe find the intersection between Chinese and French. I think this is what I'm understanding. Having the compassion to understand their language so that they can understand your language. Because a lot of things get done when you seek to understand, not to be understood.
Yeah.
So what can happen is you can scream, understand me, I'm frustrated, you're making a mess. And she can be like, understand me, I'm going crazy, and all of those things. So instead of seeking to be understood, if you seek to understand the other person, chances are they'll create room for you to be understood as well, which is how you move your rebellious teen from a teen that actually looks after you and makes the meals and cleans the house and is like the dream teen for everybody else. That's what I understood. But for you to be able to achieve this, you need to create a space of peace with yourself, because your highest version sits in that vacuum of peace, joy. Those are the highest version of you. Anything less than that is not the highest version of you. Fear, anger, all those are lower versions of you, and the decisions you make in those forms does not help for where you want to go or what you're trying to achieve. So what I understood is, one, just connecting with you, the highest version of you, which is a place where you have peace. Once you come from there, now creating time, carving out time to actually do the things that matter. Deciding what you will do and what you want to do, because you're the owner of your time. You decide what you do with your time. And then taking the time to really understand what's happening. What is happening? Where am I going? What do I need to shed off? What versions of me need to just stay there? Who am I becoming in this moment? And what do I want to allow in? And then consciously now deciding in my next phase, who do I want to be? And every day living up to that. For you to be able to laugh with your teens and enjoy the rest of your time, there is need to slow down and just do things differently, which is all of the steps, and that is her work. I love Carol because she has this ability to sit with people and help them one-on-one. She does this peace process with people one-on-one. She has access, if it makes sense. Someone to hold a container for you so you can expand. A lot of this is expansion work. Being able to expand from a small version of you to the version of you that needs to sit on the table. So I love Carol's offers because they're very personable and they're very custom and they're very access driven, which is really the biggest part of education and transformation. It's not the information, but the ability to get someone to give you time, to hold space for you, to customize the solution for you. Because you can have a lot of good information, but each is not customized to you. So I love Carol's work because of her ability to be close to her people that she helps. Her ability to offer access, her ability to just customize the solution to you. If you have a chance to work with Carol, I would just say jump on it. I'll be putting the links to connect with Carol in the show notes, in the comments, wherever I can. And this is my invitation for you to check her out, connect with her, and say what you can do for yourself. But most importantly, there's a link that you can download that will help you get to a place of peace, so that even if you're not listening to us or you don't work with Carol or you don't follow her, that you have a place to start, which is get to a place of peace in your life and decide from there, because what is going to come out of that is going to be immensely rewarding. Carol, we're winding up. What are your last words for us?
So something I'm going to pick up on when you said about speaking, you're speaking Chinese, they're speaking French. And you're just not getting through. I love that. Is that what you're doing, as well as reclaiming something amazing for yourself and, you know, coming to your higher space, you're actually leveling up. It's like gold medal parenting. And that's the thing, you really have to be a gold medal parent in this situation. And that's what I want to leave with.
Amazing. Thank you, Carol, for being on the show. And to you who is listening, thank you so much for being a great listener today. What you can do to help me and to help Carol's work not be a secret is I want you in this moment to pause and honor one person in your life who you believe needs to have some sanity as a parent. Who do you know that needs some sanity? Who do you know that needs to hear this? Who do you know that needs to understand the kinks of this? Because there's a lot of mothers out there that are losing their hair from this. There's a lot of mothers that are losing their marriages from this. There's a lot of mothers that are losing their babies from this. There's a lot of teenagers that are getting lost from all this. And if you're listening to us, you've been chosen to be the vessel of the work. I just need you to look for one person who this can change their life and just share it with them. You just need to say, hey, I listened to this interview and I thought about you. And literally just one person is all I need for you to share it. If you shared it with one person, who shared it with one person, who shared it with one person, who did the same, Carol's work would never be a secret. Would have more mothers thriving and would have more happy teams and would have a lot of goodness happening between teens and mothers and everything in between.